Hello, PA faculty and other committee members. My name is Jason Brummett. I am in the physical therapy program here at George Fox University, and I've been serving in the role as the instructor for ARP through this year. We're in ARP number 3 right now, and I've just recently completed edits on ARP 2 drafts. So at the end of ARP 2, your students who you are serving on committees for submitted their rough draft of their systematic review or their scoping review. And so I've done those initial edits and provided some initial feedback to them. And I wanted to give you some information going forward to help prepare you for what should be coming your way from them. Now, some of the drafts that came through were really polished and going in the right direction, and some need some substantial work on them still. So by September 23rd, I want them to, at that time, at the latest, get the next draft to their committee. And the goal here is for the committee to turn around revisions in a couple weeks. And those revisions can run the gamut from grammar, spelling, things like that, to content. And of course, that's where you serve that very valuable role as being content experts. And then the goal is to get them back to them in a couple week period. That way they can continue to work on them. Some individuals, they are coming along pretty nicely. Others are going to continue to need more work, like I said. Then by October 28th, I want them to get another draft to the committee as well as to me. For my eyes, I'm going to be looking for overall format. Is it meeting the format that we want for the scoping review or for the systematic review? And is it, to my eyes as a reviewer who is not versed in the content, is it something that I'm able to understand and follow? Because again, my goal from this process is, if the committee and the student agree with all this hard work that you're putting into it, try to submit it someplace for publication. And that's what I've told the students, is they're doing hard work, and of course the faculty can also benefit from publications. So our goal at that time, again, is to try to turn around revisions in a couple week period. By November 18th, they need to have their symposium posters turned in. They'll be turning in the poster to the committee for review and edits November 4th. And then the final manuscript should be submitted by December 13th to me for checking things off in this course, but I'd like them to submit to you by December 9th for the final checkoff, just to make sure that they've addressed everything that the committee wanted up to that point in time. Then it'll be a matter of whether or not you, the committee, and the student want to try to submit. And again, I've talked to them about the submission process, and hopefully, some of them are reading really nice, and I think they could be some good submissions out there. And I think all of them have that potential to them. Your professional literature, obviously way better than I do, and the types of journals that might accept these. But there are also journals, open access journals, especially those from the publisher MDPI, who accept a wide range of different formats. Those might cost a little bit of money, but there's always a possibility there. Okay, so as I mentioned before, all the ARP2 rough drafts have been returned, and so formatting seems to be the biggest issue. Now, I had in ARP2 given them guidelines of what it needed to look like, and these were the general guidelines here. The scoping review and the systematic review should have an introduction section, a methods section with table or figure, preferably both, showing the search strategies. I'm now asking them for both the table and figure because many of them did not have either one of those in there. A results section with some text, but also a major table summarizing the evidence. And then, for those of you familiar with systematic reviews, a meta-analysis was not required. It doesn't look like anyone has chosen to go this route, which is fine. And then finally, a discussion and a conclusion section. Now, in the introduction section, many of them had excessive amounts of content. Typically, 3 to 5 paragraphs is enough. I've discussed with them this kind of example here of a 3-paragraph approach where you've got your intro and your problem, and then what is currently known, and then your purpose paragraph. Additional paragraphs may be necessary to fully kind of flesh things out, but some of them had multiple paragraphs, including a background section. And so I've asked them to delete the background sections, and that background section material should be incorporated either into the intro or moved to the discussion. Method section can be very short. This was a method section to one of my systematic reviews, very short. And this was published in Sports Health. So if you're familiar with that journal, they really cut things down. So I don't recall if my section was longer than this, but again, it can be really short in nature. They can be a little bit longer too. And you've seen examples of scoping reviews and systematic reviews. I've given them multiple examples. And so things were a little bit all over the board, and I've given them some recommendations on how to cut things down or to improve things. This was a common cut and paste thing I put into several of the papers. Definitely need this table where they put their keyword and keyword combinations in order to identify relevant articles and those included in the scoping review or systematic review. Tables, they sent some rough drafts with tables that weren't editable. And so I've asked them to make sure all the tables can be edited. They should have also this Prisma figure in there somewhere too. In their results section, the challenge with writing a systematic review or scoping review, from my experience, is how much do you write when you have a table describing stuff? And so I've been trying to give them guidance along those areas. And I think this is an area where the committee can play a very valuable role too. And then some people failed to include a table. So what to include? So when there is a lot of evidence, they should try to summarize things. And so what I tried to describe to them here in this made-up summary was find studies that have similar characteristics to them. In this particular case, highlighting decreased rates of subsequent cardiovascular events in adults of a certain age who adopted the DASH diet. Then you could talk a little bit about each one, but not going into great depth or detail. Some people who've chosen to do a scope and review, let's say we did a scope and review on the Mediterranean diet and its impact on heart health. Well, you could have a section just on impact on LDL cholesterol. You could have a section just on blood pressure. You could have a section on weight loss or weight reduction. So what can be summarized in a paragraph? Now, the other strategy is if they had limited numbers of papers, maybe describe components of each study in one paragraph. So a little bit more of a narrative review. But there definitely should be a table. Now, this table here doesn't list anything regarding outcomes, and outcome column should be involved. But there needs to be a table. Some people failed to include those. The discussion section, again, where they put the findings in context, the strengths of the studies, as well as the weaknesses and limitations of current research. The conclusion section to wrap it up in one paragraph. Based on the evidence, what should a medical provider do? Now, feel free to also reach out to me if you have any questions at any time. My email here, jbrummett@georgefox.edu, and then work phone is right there. And we'd look forward to talking to you over email, over the phone, or we can set something up by Zoom. And looking forward to finishing this term strong and hopefully making these papers as good as possible and potentially publishable.